Welcome, innovators and thinkers. When is the last time that you have broke something?
Well, I broke something 2 weeks ago. Luckily, it was only my hand and not software in production.
So yeah, for the three of us, it's really important to not introduce bugs into production because all of us work in the payment domain in the Zürcher Kantonalbank, and therefore, it can be a huge reputational damage if we mess up only one payment. So that's why today we want to present you how to move fast and don't break things, because most probably you get a lot slower when you have this requirement that actually no bug is tolerable in production. So let's get started. So I first will give you a short overview about the presentation. So first we will introduce ourselves. Then we will talk, or to set the stage, we will talk a little bit about the development context that we are working in. Then we will take you on a little time travel to 8 years ago, how the whole DevOps transformation started in ZKB. We will use ZKB as an abbreviation for Zürcher Kantonalbank to make it easy for you to listen and also for us. And then we will come to the current day. How is the current status? We will give you some KPIs that you see where we are currently standing. And finally, we give you an outlook on where we are moving. Today, we won't present any rocket science, but we don't want to only show our successes. We want to show you our challenges on the way and how we solve them. It's many minor changes and like I said, nothing spectacular, but all these minor changes really brought speed to our development, and we want to bring some insight to that. So let's get started. My name is Thomas Schallert. I studied computer science in Vienna. I'm actually from Austria. I was many years self-employed as solution architect, and 2 years ago I joined ZKB as solution architect and also DevOps engineer. Currently I'm working in the team Hulk. Every team in the ZKB has a gimmicky name that they can choose, and all the product managers, everybody will call you with this name, so that's quite cool. So now let's continue with my colleague Dominik.
Thank you. So I'm Dominik, I'm 25 years old. I live here in Winterthur, and I work as a Scrum Master and DevOps engineer in the same team, the team Yoda. Currently I'm studying economics and IT at ZHW here in Winterthur, and I also live in Winterthur, like you as well, Pascal.
Yes, I'm Pascal. I also did my apprenticeship in Zürcher Kantonalbank. I did this 15 years ago, and I became 30 last year, so I'm in the company for half of my life. Yes, okay. Let's start with the short overview about the company. Who of you don't know the company Zürcher Kantonalbank? So most people do know it. What a lot of people don't know is that we have 1,000 people employed just in IT. These people are spread in 100 teams, and we're still, all of these 1,000 people are working on one building located in Zurich Hartbrücke. Our tech stack is pretty much standard. We have Oracle or Postgres for database, depending whether you're in the cloud or not. Then we use JPA and Hibernate as ORM to create Java or Kotlin objects that we use as backend languages. These backends provide REST APIs for our frontends that are mostly written in Angular. These apps can communicate with other applications via REST service or web service or message brokers. So that is all. Anything is nothing special. Where we derive from the standard is the number of our environments. We have a few different testing environments. Sorry. This is historically grown to support multiple parallel releases, and all the software that we're developing have to move from the lowest testing environment all the way up to production. Our business environment, as Thomas said, is the payment sector. This payment sector consists of 50 individual services that are run and developed by 100 people over 80 teams. And if we process more than 100 payments per second on a peak day, this means if only one service is down, this team has to down for 15 minutes. This team has to take care of about 100,000 messages. And they really have to take care about these messages because we can't afford to let just one disappear. Now, Dominik will take you to a short time travel.
Thank you for setting the stage. So as we heard, there were like these two big releases, and we're going back to 2016 and seeing how it felt to develop software in this kind of environment. So we had our big release done in November. So we were quite happy because everything went good. We still got some production bugs left, but it was all right. And we already could see the new project appear at the horizon. At the start of the year, we started with the new Greenfield project. And as you all know, Greenfield projects are much fun. So yeah, the motivation was quite high at that time, and it didn't last so long. Mid-year, we found some quite complex things about our new project. We weren't sure if we were going to hold the date for November. And yeah, we were quite getting stressed and nervous about the release in November. 2 months before the release, we found some major bugs. We were quite stressed right there. And yeah, we were getting sad. Then when the release came, we needed to go live because our project manager wanted us to go live. And so we went live with an unfinished software. You all know how this feels. So we see we have quite some problems in that setup. We are unhappy. We have quite an imbalance over the year because we have these two big releases. And we work a lot of overtime. That's not really necessary. So we want to find a solution for that, but I can't really think of one.
So yeah, I think the Agile Manifesto and also the DevOps paradigm already give us the solution to the problem. We should just deliver the changes more frequently to our customers and our stakeholders, that we get faster feedback, the software is tested continuously and not only in the end, so we reduce the stress from the teams, that only in the end there is found that there are some bugs and we have to come on the deadline. Because otherwise all of the teams, or when one team cannot deliver, all the other teams have to build back the software because we are so interdependent. So yeah, I think we should start deploying more often and do it like startups, like move fast and break things.
Wait a minute. I don't think we can't afford to break things. Did you forget we're working in the payment sector? We heard from Pascal that we have millions of payments a day, and if we only break one payment, we can have huge financial impact. So if we want to move fast, we need to make sure that we don't break things.
So yeah, I think there are many challenges along the way, but nonetheless, we have seen Pascal describe, we have so many testing stages. So I think we will be fine if we break one of those. So let's try it anyway.
But I already see the first problem. Right now, if we deploy to production, we have a downtime of about 15 minutes. And that's okay if we deploy twice a year, but if we want to deploy every 2 weeks, we can't afford to be down 15 minutes.
That's true. There are many solutions to that problem. So we will today only look at some of the solutions we use for that, and they are not rocket science, as I said before. So yeah, we could just use a node-by-node deployment, deploy the new software version in a new node, and then only route the traffic to this new node when the software is up and running. For that, of course, we need a database versioning tool like Liquibase or Flyway to migrate the schemas, because behind the services is always our own database schema, and so we need to migrate that. We also need to be able to roll back the changes, such that if you introduce a breaking change, the old software can still run, and so we need rollback scripts also.
That's nice. So we can deploy now without having any downtime. But I already see the next problem. Right now, if we want to deploy to production, we need the approval of two other teams, namely the business and the operations team. So we can't really deploy without having them on board.
Yeah, you're right. So we really need an organizational change. So right now, everyone is spread across many teams. So we have the infrastructure guys, we have the finance guys, so they know actually the business, and we have the development. So we really need to move in together, that we can start to move faster, because otherwise it's a lot of communication. There are you need many approvals to get to a release, and it's a lot of planning. So we need to move all the knowledge into the DevOps team. So we need a lot more collaboration also, and it would be good if everyone sits together in the building and not be spread across many buildings. And yeah, as I mentioned before, it's really important to also move the business into the teams, because we need fast feedback. When we develop, we don't want to just deploy multiple stages and then get 2 weeks after that feedback. We really need the business sitting next to us and be accessible, that during development we get right the feedback, so we don't have this long loops of feedback.
It's so nice to sit next to the business people. If you actually have a question about it, you just ask them, and you don't need to walk throughout the whole building. So, but there's already a next problem. And I understand their argument, the business argument, that when we will go to production, they have to test like 2 weeks manually. That can't stay like that.
Yeah. So we all know how to do that. We need to automate testing. So we really highly have to employ automated end-to-end testing. For that, we just use frameworks like Selenium or Cypress to really emulate what the users did manually all the time. So there was a huge manual testing efforts. There was a feature freeze. Many months before, there was a lot of manual testing. And so we want that the business describes the cases that they click through the software before, so that we can automate these tests, that we also prevent, or we have regression tests that we prevent from future changes, that we break old stuff. And what's also really important, we need specific testing applications. So applications that are only deployed to make load testing, and also to ensure that the whole chain of microservices still is consistent. Because, as we know, a change can have many side effects. So we have to make sure, if we are deploying independently, that we don't break the chain of microservices. So we need applications that make sure that they generate some load, and in the end also assert the results of the whole chain.
Nice. So now we can decide in minutes if we want to go to production or not, or if we are ready or not. But there's still another thing. Like you heard, we have like 50 microservices all working together in the payment sector. And yeah, it's nice if we can deploy like minor changes in the UI, but the really big changes we can't deploy like that, because we're independent on the other microservices.
Yeah, so there's, again, many solutions to that, but one easy thing is just feature flags. It's a simple if statement if you do it simply, and then you just enable or disable some functionality. So we highly use feature flags, and the benefit of feature flags is also some feature flags stay in production actually and are not built back after some time, because they're for the business actually really useful, because they can in the end change to our older functionality. It still has to be compatible, but if you make sure of that, you have still a fallback. And the business really likes to use the feature flags to disable some functionality. API versioning is also a pattern that you can use. It's nothing new. And if the service is then ready, he can just, if it's a non-breaking change, subscribe to the new field that you add. In the end, you have to really make sure that you differentiate between breaking and non-breaking changes, because the non-breaking changes are really cheap. They are just additions mostly to a schema, and that makes it really easy and cheap to implement. And for the other ones, you have API version and feature flags, but also makes it easy.
I still see one more problem. We work in a bank, and in a bank there's a governance, and when the governance doesn't really support our way of developing software.
So I think the first thing you really need is trust in the organization, because before there are many people a long time at the bank, and they will challenge you. They will ask like, why don't we need these long windows of feature freezes anymore? It makes the system unstable. And yeah, a bank has the reputation to lose, and in the end, that's all the bank has. Their trust, that people trust them, that they, that the balance is correct in the end. So you have to build trust over time by showing that you can deploy more often and deliver changes more often and don't break things. They will start to trust you, and then you can really gain speed and install more often. And with time, they will trust you. And another thing you need in the highly regulated environment, we need, because of the regulatory environment, we need change requests. We have to document everything, what we change. And so we need requests for that in the organization with approvals. But now that all the people that are really in charge are in the same team, everyone knows actually what he's deploying. And it's not some manager really far away approving some change he has no idea about. So that's also a nice benefit.
So nice. I think you've cleared out all of our problems. So let's see where this got us today.
So here are some numbers. Now, if you see the 0 here, it does not mean that in 2016 there were no unit tests. So this means unit tests, there were many, and also integration tests. But this means like these tests of the specific testing application. So right now we have around 15K, and I think today we have a lot more. These are the numbers from the year 2023. So it's 15K automated tests over the chains of microservices just to make sure that the chain is still working correctly. And we moved from 0 E2E tests to more than 500. So the UIs where you can do a lot of troubleshooting are now really well tested. A lot of flows are clicked through manually, and so you gain really a lot of the developers gain a lot of trust and are confident to deploy more often. From 4 deployments to 72. That number is actually really amazing, because that means there was more than 1 deployment per week. And this really shows how you can gain speed and what the speed really means, because it's not only on the end of every sprint that we deploy, it's during the sprint also where we deploy. And I didn't mention, but this is only for one team, the team Yoda, for my 2 colleagues that I work in. These are just the numbers for them. And now the business sits next to the development. It's really cool to work here. And also there's still these release windows, and not everyone is deploying so often. Also not only in the payment domain, so there are many other teams that also don't deploy so often, even though they would be maybe in a less regulated environment in the bank. But the team Yoda just installs whenever they want, and they have really decoupled their releases, and they can just enable the features with feature flags. And also Team Halkin, which I'm developing, of course, can do that. So it feels really like paradise now.
It really does. And did you notice we can decide every day if we want to go to production or not?
Yeah.
Because we have so many automated tests.
And it really makes a difference. If you know that your change goes live in 2 weeks, you develop software differently. Because when you know it's only in 6 months it goes live and there's a lot of testing, you still think a lot about your change, but if you know it's next week when it goes live, you have a different mindset about your change. And this really helps to reduce the stress, because you get used to that way of working, and in the end, in the releases, there's no stress anymore, because actually you're not installing anything new, so everything is tested really well.
And our software quality improved as well.
Yeah, of course, that's because the developers are now more cautious about their changes, and also the number of bugs went a lot down, because the business is testing so early. The bugs get fixed quite early, because you know exactly what change introduced that bug, because it's tested right away, and not a huge number of changes together is checked. And we have so much more times for approvals now.
Yeah, I really love the work here. We have so much time for interesting things like uppers, you said, and it's just perfect to work here.
Wait, not everything is perfect. We don't have whirlpools in the office, and I haven't seen one dolphin yet. No, we're still working on some serious stuff, and I will tell you about what we're doing at the moment. First of all, we're building an automated pipeline. At the moment, every deployment of every application in every environment has to be done manually, and if you deploy to production, you have to do some additional manual settings during the deployment to really don't be down. So with building an automated pipeline, we hope to reduce the effort and improve the stability of our systems. And also we want to increase the number of 72 deployments last year to maybe a few hundred. So the next thing that we're working on is our autonomous team. We are normally quite autonomous, but we are still dependent on some things like central databases, and if the DBAs decide to take it down, we can't really work for a few hours. And we are also dependent on some other teams or services of some other teams, and some teams have written custom mocks for that, but we could benefit more if we had a standardized way of doing it. Third thing is our tech stack. As I've shown in the beginning, it's quite standard and quite modern, but for example, we're in the middle of the cloud transformation where we are moving a lot of services to the cloud. And at the moment, it's also a huge effort to replicate data from another system, and that could be improved by using event streaming platforms. Last thing is to spread this vibe into other teams. As Thomas mentioned, not everyone in the bank is doing it, and nobody told us to do it. So we just did it because we wanted to do it like this. And I think we could benefit this whole organization most if all the teams would work like this. So we're almost at the end of our presentation now. And if you could take away these points into your lunch break, we would be really happy. First thing, it's a good thing to deploy more often. It will reduce the time to market, and it will be easier and faster to find bugs. Second thing, it may hurt at the beginning, but if it hurts, just do it more often. Then the software quality will rise, and all the boring tasks like regression testing will be automated. And the last point, it is possible, even in a strong regulated environment like the Swiss banking sector. Talk to your internal and external stakeholders, build trust with them, and then you will find a solution for all the problems. And last point, just go for it, because if you never start, you'll never be done. Thank you.